This is David Hoffman, filmmaker. And I put out the call to my subscribers to use me to tell their stories. It benefits us both. I made a long video on it. And I've been getting videos from people who are courageous enough to give it a try. Well, this is a video from Kara. And Kara, what a brave, beautiful person to tell this story, which is quite painful to watch. But you feel Kara through it, and you feel why she's doing this. And she has a reason for doing this, and she says it, and it is she wants others to benefit from what she is exposing about herself. So watch Kara tell her story, and once again, thank you, Kara.
It's not for nothing. So when the universe calls, you better be ready. And I mean that. I've tried to write my memoirs before, and I'm one of those people where, like, there's so many weird, sad stories in it that it makes some people believe that it's a lie. I mean, I wouldn't make it up. But anyway, but this is not about them. This is for the people out there. This is for you out there who thinks it's too late, or you've made too many mistakes, or you're too broken. I have PTSD from childhood trauma. I always thought my mother, Karen, she was this beautiful, exotic woman. She was 5 feet tall and maybe 5'2", and she had this deep olive skin, Egyptian makeup, and this frosted blonde hair, petite body, but muscular. And every man would turn and look at her. She had that aura about her. But unfortunately, she was also cursed with a battle of mental and spiritual illness. So while we did get this beautiful, beautiful Karen, beautiful doll, she had overwhelming depression and honestly, who knows what, because she escaped the cracks. Well, what did she do? I never thought she wanted me, because I never remember her wanting me. I remember my 4th or 5th birthday and waking up on the weekend, and you expect to see your parents there because it's your birthday and you're so excited. And I remember seeing a German chocolate cake, staring down at it with its stupid maraschino cherries. I hate German chocolate cake. And hearing my mother say, I wish I had the doctor tie a rope around my tummy so you wouldn't have been born. Because even at that age, I looked too much like my dad. There was a level of jealousy, but also like her self-hate bled into teaching me that I was a burden. I always thought that I was a burden, or that the world did hate me and that I shouldn't be here. Well, I guess not always thought, but if you've ever had that feeling embedded in you, this is why I'm releasing this information. So my husband got me German chocolate cake on one of my birthdays. I'm sure he won't do that again. And throughout my life, with my family, my parents fighting, one winter my dad broke all the windows and they had this terrible fight. I ran out to the sidewalk because I was always thinking about how I was embarrassed. And Mrs. R., who was my neighbor, was a Catholic elderly woman, and she was just smoking a drag of her cigarette, and we could hear the windows bursting and breaking. And I looked at her and I said, "Mom and Dad are redecorating." And she nodded. And thank you for that, Mrs. R, because she was saving my dignity, which is what I want. I was really embarrassed. In fact, it gets to a point in a violent childhood where you tend to be more embarrassed than afraid. So after my dad left, I turned into like this little Dr. Phil or this little Dr. Drew. My mom would always say, should I kill myself? Today, I'm gonna kill myself. I'm gonna do it in the bathtub. Should I do it today, Kara? Should I do it in the bathtub? And she would look in the mirror at her beauty and look for little wrinkles or what have you, just for hours and hours. Should I get a divorce? But most often it was, should I kill myself today? Or should I do it in the bathtub? And then progressively it became, that will show all of you. That'll show the family, that'll show society, that will show me, Kara, that we're all responsible. We all messed up. So there was a lot of anger in that. Going back to one of the root causes, besides genetic, besides what can happen in genetics, in drug use, in alcoholism. When I was 11 months old, my mother's brother, her idol, placed his 2-week notice and he killed himself. And the family always was it was a shock to them. But he was this chosen one, like he was the oldest son. And also my mother's hero. And that is when the bottom fell out. That is when she wanted to stop living. Because if her brother wouldn't keep on, why would she? So by the time I was 6, 7, she'd ask me for a lot of dating advice, and she'd always pick these womanizers or these losers, and they'd say, Mom, these people, this guy, he's a toy friend. There was one in particular that I really didn't like. And I tell some of my peoples who are divorced and dating again that you gotta be careful. Sometimes your kid doesn't like someone not because they're being a brat. They're sensing someone. And we did meet someone, and he was a womanizer. And I tried to tell her that this person had many women around all the time, and we still had to go over there. And I called him my Hitler because, sure, I was abused at home and choked and, clawed at. But the way he treated me was different type of degrading, as if I was just a sturdy human being. And Then when I was 11, it began that he started asking my mom. I caught him asking because I wanted to be a detective. I wanted to be an author. And maybe in some ways God or the universe wanted me to know. I heard him ask my mother if I had ever been kissed yet, and he was asking really weird questions like that. The summer I was 11, I wanted to be like Mulder and Scully on the X-Files. I wanted to be a scientist and a detective and an author and finally get good grades in school and get the heck out of Aurora, Colorado, and the heck out of the life I've known and just be happy. You know, maybe go to Colorado State University. Those are big dreams. I wasn't stupid and I wasn't hyperactive. I was so much more than that. And I had so many teachers who just didn't recognize it. So by that time, middle school, enough drama had happened between me and my mom. For her to be very unemotionally attached to me. And we started having to go to his house on Fridays. Now this was a relief to me because if I go on a Friday, that means she can't beat me. Maybe there'll be food. And I can watch X-Files and South Park. And she'll be out of my hair. But around this time, something changed. He got to touch me for like 2 hours. And my feet were right next to my mother's. I started kicking her to look at us, to stop him, but she wouldn't let her eyes move off the TV. And she even mentioned it in a different sort of way later. But I realized that she knew what was going on and it was intentional. And then he went with my mother. So living like this sucked. Being with mom, who was violent, who would make me bleed, who would lose her temper, and now her beatings were turning very sexual. I have a hairline crack close to my brainstem, and choking me was her favorite thing to do. Why didn't I go and tell on them? Because, you know, at least at his house I wasn't beaten. And at her house I wasn't losing those parts of myself that should be my decision to the worst person I knew. My mother said that she would bake my 3 cats in the oven if I said anything. And that's all I had. That's all I had. And it was worth being silent for. Now I will say, transition. There was one day, he always promised that if my mother started hurting me, to call him and he would stop it. I will protect you from being beaten. I did call him that one day, as Ajax bleach powder was seeping into bloody wounds of mine. And he said, I don't care. That's something you and your mother have to deal with. After that, I was determined he would never, ever get to have me again. Ever. I should say that I recognized a pattern of money being involved with this whole scandal. So it was money and getting punished from both sides. So after that, I felt rather shameful going back to school. The teachers already thought I was, stupid, troubled life, whatever you want to say. I did have some advocates, but few and far between. And we're going to jump forward into when I was 26. My mom died. And just like she had said so many times that it was going to be in a bathtub, the issue was she had cardiac arrest in a bathtub. And my other relatives thought it was murder or suicide. But the coroner, like me, but the coroner said, I see 50 of these a week. It's alcohol damage, liver damage, cardiac arrest. So yeah, she died that night. And in some ways it was an absolute relief. And in other ways, the after effects is what caused the PTSD. The way people gossiped about her, the way people treated me in her probate. I was just a kid. I was 26 with a 3-year-old. And so many people wanted to gossip. They gossiped at her funeral. Her funeral. Everyone, even the priests, they pulled out this stupid scripture that was the most redundant scripture I've ever heard of. Like, they didn't even try. And it was like, and thus bake, or something really nonsensical. It said, maybe this was a sign Karen went to heaven. We found it in her purse. I had her purse. So everybody came to rubberneck at her funeral and gossip, but we were being quite hypocritical. And I always tell people, don't gossip at funerals. If you have to gossip, go home and do that. Because someone will always be listening. And if anyone could throw somebody under the bus, it could have been me. But she asked for dignity in death, especially when I was a little girl. And for somebody to say for that long that she was gonna off herself, and for me to be in charge of not letting anyone in to see how bad her life had become, I took that dignity seriously, that role seriously, and I was punished for it by other people. But when you go into a hoarder's home and it's someone you love, 4 feet of trash, and you see their little handprints, you see the broken glass and holy water, and you realize that this is hell. And I was cleaning out her house when the Aurora Theater Mall massacre happened. The same place I would walk to get books. Worst year. And after that, that's what ignited the PTSD. It was no longer depression. It was no longer, I couldn't bounce back. There was a youthfulness in me that was finished, drained. I don't know. Are you a doctor? Adrenals? But yeah, after having my second son and my grandmother passing away, they finally said it was PTSD. With PTSD, you live with these people every day. I live with the one perp who paid money. I live with my mother. I would live with those feelings. But here's the thing. You are not your feelings, and you are not your thoughts. And even if I take a few medications and therapy to keep rocking it, I have confidence in myself. I know that the most beautiful thing in the world is to take your story and help somebody else. Help somebody else with the pain that they're going through. And I think as a kid, that's what kept me holding on. That someday I would use my story to help other people, because it's a cycle that just repeats itself. It's not easy being a creator with PTSD. It's not easy being anybody with PTSD. You'll get exhausted. And my thought of having, high energy and the upper echelon of education, that was severely impacted. I had felt like I was 13 for so long, that all the adults were over me, especially after my mom died, because I got bossed around a lot. And I was still 5 foot. I was still little 26-year-old, and her whole family flips on her. Because I won't let people take photos of somebody else's disease. Not for gossip. So, there's more, but I will say, how did I get myself back? It's a daily thing, and I want to contribute, and I go back to those goals I had when I was 11 and 13. That's where I go back to, because that's where the hidden treasure is. I wanted to be an author, and now I am an author. My grandmother, she never wanted me to be an author. She said, an author? A writer? Writers don't make no money. The funny thing is that for my 33rd birthday, on September 4th, I'm a Beyonce baby, I found out a movie was coming out. First Man, by James Hansen. That's my second cousin, twice removed. The universe has wonderful cosmic wings. And so, although others may walk away or say you've changed, you have, but you keep going and keep creating that beauty. Doesn't matter if people believe or not. I stopped chasing love and started deliberately forming my own happiness. I think us abused kids, we chase love and we are loved, but I don't think we can feel love. Like, we can't feel that we're loved. We just kind of know it. We can't feel it. It's not in our bodies. The one thing we crave, because we're afraid it'll be taken away from us. So yes, happiness is easier to choose. And I think that's where we're going with this. So know your triggers. And once you know those little devils, you can identify them for the little they are. Every day, something different. Every morning, afternoon, night, goes up and down. But knowing yourself, knowing human psychology.
Kara had a horrible story, really affected me when I watched it the first time, and the courage to express what she felt and the dignity to stand up for herself and the feeling that she has something to give to the world. I mean, there's nothing I can do, and I suspect there's nothing you could do, but honor Kara. So I want to thank you again, Kara, and I want to invite anyone who would like to share their story through my channel to, as you know, the growing community of people who want to be decent to each other, who want to be kind to each other, who want to be sympathetic to each other. Then give it a try. So for Kara and all of you others who want to speak out, who want to tell your stories, who want to help someone else, who want to be heard, thank you.